Hello,
Hey, hey.
and welcome to today's episode of Speaking the Truth About Money with Martin Coward and Joy the Wise Woman. I am both Martin Coward and Joy the Wise Woman. Martin is my human name, and Joy the Wise Woman is my spiritual name. I am both Martin Coward and Joy the Wise Woman. Sorry about that. Getting a little feedback there. I didn't necessarily need. It was a little bit of a distraction for me. But anyway, thank you for joining us today. I am both Martin Coward and Joy the Wise Woman, and I was just rudely interrupted by my own broadcast coming in on my YouTube channel that I had forgotten to turn down. So I apologize for that. But I'm so excited today to be talking with you as we share stories about transformation and truth about our relationship to money and finances and the world, because what we know to be true is that so many of us in our culture put too much power into money and in our beliefs of our own self-worth. And so we find that if we can just tell the truth, we find out that guess what? Money has nothing to do with my self-worth. But I'll tell you something, as a mindset coach and as a spiritual mindset coach, our worthiness, anybody struggling with any kind of money issue, it always comes down to a worthiness issue. It's always a worthiness issue. So that's why we have these conversations, so that we can break through that story that I'm not worth it, because we are worth it. We are powerful men. In my case, I'm a powerful queer man and a teacher connected to Joy the Wise Woman, who can change the world if I let go of that old belief I'm not good enough or I'm not worthy. So that's what we talk about today in these shows. We talk about the truth about ourselves and about the world. And I'm so excited today to have a fellow gay coach, a man of color who I met recently, Freddy Sanders, who is a divinity coach. He's connected to spirit. And he and I, when we first met, I was like, oh my God, brother, you're like the black version of me. You know, you get it. It's all about bringing people into the heart. It's all about bringing people into the truth of who they are, where our power is, so we can unlock those superpowers and we can create change and transformation in the world. So, Freddie, I'm so grateful that you're here with me today to talk about your story. And where I'd like to start, people always are curious. Let me ask you one question first. Tell me a little bit about your spiritual life growing up.
My spiritual life growing up. Well, I grew up in a very Christian-based household.
Yeah.
So my parents divorced when I was about 6 years old. So I primarily lived with my mother, and I visited my dad on weekends. But both ends were Christian-based values. I would say my father more so than my mother. Whenever I went to visit my father on weekends, it was mandatory that we go to church. So I grew up, in a very Christian-based environment. And as I got older, I took on a lot of those, sort of almost dogmatic values. And the older I got, I recognized that, those rigid values didn't really resonate or serve me.
Right.
The holistic part of me. And I didn't really have the language for it then, but definitely do now.
Yeah, it sounds like to me, I grew up in a Christian environment too, in the Deep South, and I won't say all that dogma and all that you got all that belief structure is really, for me, was keeping me from the divine connection that I was so looking for. And
Exactly.
I had a little place I like to go called the Monkey Tree, where I'd go sit with my divine presence, and that whatever that I know, I call that Joy the Wise Woman today. I didn't know what that was when I was a little boy, but I knew I loved sitting in that tree, and it was a different relationship. That Jesus sitting with me in that tree was a lot different than the Jesus they were telling me about in that Bible school class.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that but it did influence me, and it did trigger me to think there is something bigger going on than what they're teaching me in Sunday school.
Right.
So
Exactly.
I just wanted, I'm just curious about that, because I don't know very many people who use the word divinity coach. So we're going to get to that in a minute, but before we do, I want to hear a little bit of your story of who you were before you decided to become a coach. What made you decide to become a coach, and then why a divinity coach? Tell us a little bit about your story of you haven't always done this. Who were you before, and what got you here, and tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I'm originally from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And I've always been very artistic and creative. So I got my undergrad degree from Louisiana Tech University in computer information systems because I was told that, I need to major in something where I can get a job after.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a lot of people were told that. And so everybody who graduated in that field at that time couldn't get jobs when we graduated. So I took a different route and went more into graphic design because I'm a self-taught graphic designer. So I went more the web design and graphic design route. And so I was a graphic designer for 17 years.
Wow.
And at the height of that, I lived in New York City. I moved to New York City in 2007. And at the height of my graphic design career, I was senior graphic designer for Bank of America headquarters. So I did that for about 8.5 years. And then I got to a point where I was like, I don't want to, something about this doesn't fulfill me. It doesn't light me up. It doesn't excite me anymore. And I wanted to do something that still allowed me to be creative, but had more of a profound impact in people's lives and in the world.
Right.
And, I've always been on my own, sort of transformational, spiritual development, personal development journey, always looking and seeking answers and asking more questions and things of that nature. So when I began transitioning from graphic design and thinking about what I wanted to do, the universe sort of presented me with coaching as a possibility. And I was like, I think this might be it for me.
Wow.
So I started reaching out to people, and I have friends who were in the space. And so in 2019, I went into coaching school and began my journey. And I'm trained in what's called Ontological Coaching, which is a branch of philosophy that focuses on beingness and the human condition and human experience.
Yes.
So, we deeply explore our worldview and our language and our interpretations and meanings and how our language shapes our lives. And so if we want to, the assertion that we make in the school is if we want to transform the world or shift the world, then we get to begin with our worldview and our language that has shaped the world that we've created, So
I love that.
That's where my journey started. Yeah.
I am not a trained coach. I have had 20 years of experience in doing ego shadow work with the Mankind Project. So I would say I'm a master shadow worker of doing that, because I totally agree with you. And I love the language of ontological coaching, because I am also an ontological. I didn't know that's what I was, but I definitely teach the path of the heart, which is the path to who you're being. When we're in our being, as we checked in a while ago, when I am being the loving presence of the universe, when I am being the creator of the universe,
that's it.
That loving creator of the universe, there is nothing we cannot do.
Absolutely.
And that's what I so much loved about you when I met you, was that you said, wow, we both do the same thing. If we can bring more people into who they're being, when they know who we are is the creator of the friggin' universe, there's nothing we can't do, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of exciting. It's exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting. And the beauty of that is, like you said, it's, when people know who we really are. But what I learned through my journey and my process is that it was about first me learning who I am.
Right. Yeah. I love that. We can't. I see this so many times with people who are doing what we're doing, and they're talking about what it's like to be there, but you can't bring anybody into heart space. You can't bring anybody into this way of being until we've been enlightened and we're in that being ourselves.
Exactly.
And then, because we're vibrating at that energetic level of unconditional love, we're going to attract people who want to go into that world. I call it heart space. Jesus called it kingdom of heaven. Joe Dispenza calls it the quantum field. It's all the same high level creative energy force that creates everything of unconditional love. Isn't that exciting?
Very exciting. It energizes me every day.
I know. I get it every morning when Joy says, Joy, what miracle are we going to perform today? So what miracle are you going to perform today, my friend Freddy? What do you have a name for that divine part of yourself like I do, or do you just know it intimately? Tell us a little about your relationship with that divine part of Freddy.
It's really interesting that you asked that question, because, for a long time, I used to wear this, what I would learn later is really just a narrative of a recovering perfectionist. And that served me for a period of time. But, what I recognize is that I get to rename myself and shift that narrative, because what was happening with the recovering perfectionist is I kept encountering like scenarios that required me to recover. And I was like, you know what? That's not really serving me anymore. So who am I? Who do I desire to be? Who am I creating and generating and manifesting myself to be? So I played around with two words, and I combined two words together. So one of my core values is freedom. And another word that I love is phenom. So I combine those two words together. So my word for how I describe me is a phenom.
Oh, I love that. You know what I really loved about your story? It's something that I've discovered too, is a 24-hour cycle. As I've gotten closer and closer to Joy, we have to recreate our agenda every single day, because the agenda that we created yesterday, as noble as it was, will not serve. It becomes Martin's agenda. And I have to surrender that agenda every single morning. It's kind of like a little bit of a death of my ego every morning, and say, Joy, what are we doing today to change the world? How am I serving you, Joy the wise woman? How am I serving you, the divine, today to make a difference in the world? I have to do that every single day. What about you? Or have you even thought about that?
No, I have thought about it in my own way.
Yeah, that's what I want to hear. Yeah, your way of seeing that. That's my way of seeing it. I want to hear Freddy's way of seeing it.
Right. It's interesting because I often, when we have casual conversations with people, we often hear, so how was your day? Or how's your day going? And that occurred to me. It occurs to me now as that asking it in that way sort of makes it sound like, life is just happening. That life is happening to me, and that I just wake up and I'm just sort of like sitting around waiting to see what's going to happen and what's going to happen to me today so that I can react to it. Yeah. What I started doing is waking up in the morning and saying, what do I get to create today?
Yes.
What do I create today, and what can I give? What do I have to offer today?
Yes.
Yeah.
Isn't that a wonderful mind shift?
Yeah,
It
it's
takes
a different mind. It's a mind shift, and it's a different energy that I get to approach every day with intention.
Yes,
It's awesome.
every single day.
Every single day.
There's my virtual assistant and business partner right there, Abba Henry, saying hello.
Abba.
He's a great guy. Hope one day you guys get to meet each other, because I think you'd really enjoy it.
Yeah.
His spiritual name is Christ the King.
Ooh.
Because when I met him, I said, "You are a king," and the love in his heart, the generosity of his heart is the same as what I experienced from Christ. We all have a Christ within us, by the way.
Absolutely.
It wasn't Jesus' his last name. It's that divine spark of light. That's what Christ is.
Yeah.
And he is that divine spark of energy. And I'm just like you are. I mean, that's what I love about you. I mean, I see that, I experience that, I feel that. And I'm sure that the people that you work with and people in the world see that in you, see that divine light of love and unconditional love. And as a coach, as a divinity coach, I know how much you love pulling people into this light, especially men of color.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about some of the experiences, some of the men of color that you've really had some breakthroughs with, that you want to share with the world, where people, maybe some of your biggest breakthroughs with people that you feel comfortable sharing with the world. You don't have to tell their name, of course, but
yeah. You know, what comes up for me is, you know, recently, this past week, I had a sort of consultation. We call them, in the coaching world, we call them discovery calls. I had a discovery call with the gentleman, man of color. And, you know, I went into the call not, you know, as with most, you know, new potential clients that I talk to, not really knowing what's going to happen, not knowing what they're going to come to me with, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And in 45 minutes, he and I had one of the most profound, connected, heartfelt, heart-centered, vulnerable, intimate conversations that I think I've ever had with another man of color stranger.
Wow, I love that, because what I'm hearing is that once you kind of got out of your head and into your heart together, something magical came alive.
It was a magical conversation.
That magical connection, and we just saw Ab on it. That's exactly what I got when I got to Africa and met him. It was like, here I am, the whitest looking guy in the world, and I'm meeting this young, handsome African gay man for the first time. And I'm like, we are so connected, and we just connected at the heart. And now we call ourselves agape brothers, because we just love each other so much. A love that transcends any kind of romantic or emotional. It's just this deep, deep love that changes the world. And I totally get that. And I love that. That is exactly why people come to talk to you, right?
Exactly.
Into that space with you.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, one of the things that I've noticed in my work and in my studies is that I would even go so far as to boldly say that it's an epidemic among men, and especially gay men, where there's a disconnect head to heart, where we feel like we don't have the permission to truly share our emotions and our feelings in an intimate way. There's an intimacy that's missing between
I love that.
men.
And what do you think that might be, Freddie? Why do you think that gay men, and maybe even particularly gay men of color, are so afraid of being vulnerable, being open with their feelings?
Well, I think it's what I'm studying in my doctoral work around what I call performative masculinity.
Oh, wow. Tell me a little more about that.
Yeah. A few years ago, I started hearing this term being wielded around called toxic masculinity. And I was intrigued by it, and I wanted to explore it a bit more. And the more conversations I had with people about it, you know, they were like, well, maybe consider, shifting the language or reframing it, in a way that's not so, reductive. Because
Right.
it's not the masculinity itself that's toxic. It's the mindset. It's the toxic thinking that
Right.
leads to toxic behavior.
Right.
But it's not masculinity itself that's toxic. What it is performative. And when we explore performative masculinity, we can ask more questions like, what's the performance? Who am I performing for?
Right.
Why do I feel the need to perform? And so there's this, especially among Black males, there's this need for, and it's a survival mechanism.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that whole thing is, as I know you grew up in Baton Rouge and I grew up in Southwest Georgia, and I can tell you right now that, first of all, when I grew up, you and I couldn't play together. That would have been completely against the rules.
Right.
Because you're Black and I'm white. And then the fact that we're both gay, that would have been even further more controversy. God knows what that might lead to. And so it was just a whole toxic environment that we all took on. And I think that we all took on our fear of being vulnerable, our fear of sharing our truth and our stories, because we got beaten up and bullied as kids on the playground. I mean, I didn't know I was gay. I knew I was different. I knew I wasn't a normal boy, because the normal boys kept reminding me I wasn't a normal boy all the time. So I did spend a lot of my time in trying to be like a normal boy, to fit in. Right. And I think that now people are scared, and that's what we try to do as coaches, is reverse that mindset, that belief, and say, no, wait a minute. Those powers, that excitement you feel for another man, that's where your power is.
Yes. Yeah.
That's where, because that's the creative power within gay men. Is in that creative spark that attracts people to each other.
Yeah.
And
so, yeah, so that, the coaching world and the coaching industry is very, very dominated by women.
Yeah.
It's the mental health, the emotional health and wellness space is dominated by women. And I see, even when I was in my coach training, I saw a lot of women in my school, in my cohort, saying, I'm about empowering women, which is great, totally needed. But where's the male empowerment? And that's what really lit a fire within me.
Yes, me too. I got you.
Yeah. Like I want to empower men, because men get to be empowered as well. Yeah.
Exactly. Because we gave up, like women gave up their feminine superpowers to be more like men, to make a living in the world. We gave up our gay, and I know a lot of Black people go out and try to look and pretend to be more like white men.
Oh, that part.
Yeah, that part. And what we're saying, wait a minute, we're going to empower you to be I'm going to empower you to be the Blackest, the queerest, the most authentic man, because that's where your power is, right?
Yeah. And it's funny, one of my favorite shows, what has become one of my favorite shows now, is RuPaul's Drag Race.
Oh yeah,
because there are such profound elements of that empowerment and divinity energy, that divine energy, where people find and search the really deep, authentic, vulnerable parts of themselves through the process of that show, and you get to watch these humans unfold in a really powerful way. And I love it. Like, it's so fascinating for me to watch, and I would say it has, even in a lot of ways, impacted my coaching with
I'm sure, because you're seeing people going on stage being very, very authentic. Yeah. That is authentically who they are.
Yeah.
I want to touch on something that I'm starting to play with as a coach, I work mostly with gay people, gay men mostly. And I go to an Episcopal church. It's a wonderful, Christ-centered, very inclusive church. But the rector said, we want to get more. We want to be more of a. We want to get more inclusive of the LGBT community. Pride's coming up, so I'm thinking, well, what? How do we get them? Well, first of all, we got to get them to trust us. We got a trust issue with the Christian church. So this is what I believe happens. Somewhere along the line, I know where it happened. It happened when they became part of the Roman Catholic Church. They put Jesus. Jesus, in my observation, was fully human and fully divine. That was the whole point. He's fully human and fully divine. And when they decided to create a church or religion around him, they decided to elevate him up to divinity, made him chaste and celibate and all that nonsense. And then they decided to make Mary Magdalene a prostitute, which put women down.
Right.
And that's where we got off. And we got to go back and we got to unpack that story to the truth, because the truth is this, and I would love to hear your comment about this. The truth is this: he was fully human, he was fully divine, which means that if you like something as a human being, he liked it as a human being. Why would God create something as wonderful and as exciting as human connection through sex, making love, and deny it of himself coming into the world fully human, and go through all that agony on the cross without enjoying the pleasure of life? It makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah.
The problem is, and why it needs to be corrected, is because by making him a better than, which is completely nonsense in the world of the heart space. There's no one superior to another. That was the point of his teaching. But by making him superior to the human, it makes gay men, it makes me feel like when I'm having a sex with another man, there's something that's beneath the divine. It's not.
It's not.
And that's what's got to be reconciled. That's that truth that, and there's a wonderful piece of gospel called The Secret Gospel of Mark. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's only about a page. And it talks about Jesus rescuing a young man from the death and spending about 8 days with him, teaching him about the kingdom of heaven. It's a pretty cool gospel. But I would love to hear what your thoughts are on that idea of coming back to really telling the truth that Jesus was, if you really believe the Jesus story for what it was, that God came in to love the world, fully human, fully divine, it certainly has to include sexual relationships with other human beings.
Yeah. I haven't given that particular nuance that much thought, to be honest. Now I read a book recently called Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh.
I'm familiar with that book.
Yeah. So it's several books. It's a several book series. And in book 2, he talks about, and he hears the voice of God talking about sex and how these stories and these narratives in religion sort of diminish and reduce sex and sexuality in such a way that it creates these stories and these narratives that are untrue, that are like they're false narratives.
Yes.
And so for me, like it has me to question everything, not just that one part, but the whole kit and caboodle.
Yes. I only pay it. I am a spiritual teacher, and Jesus is my master, and I really pay attention to the wisdom teachings of Jesus. And everything I know about Jesus from that lens, from the lens of a man who came to teach a path to the heart, a path to the kingdom of heaven, a path to the heart we call it today, that when you begin to see his teachings and his life as an example of a path to heart, a path to higher levels of consciousness, everything changes. Then the stories, then those old narratives don't make any sense whatsoever. They just don't make any sense. Like what I'm talking about right now, it makes no sense that God would have come, poured himself incarnate as an example to show people, you know what, I am fully human and fully divine, and so are you. And I'm coming down to show you how wonderful life is on planet Earth.
Right.
Yeah, and it's just, and so I'm on a mission to let go of those false narratives, because I think that false narrative in itself is one of the shadow beliefs that keeps gay men from truly loving themselves for who they are.
Yeah. And then there's this there's this underpinning of, patriarchy,
Yeah.
and this whole, like the whole narrative is very, what we call anthropocentric. It's very humans are the center of the world. Humans are, the one and only dominant species in the entire universe. And so when we see that these narratives that we create are centered in that way, and we challenge that, it puts things in a more realistic
exactly. Absolutely. I love that, Freddie. That is phenomenal insight.
Because who determined that God, what we call God, is a man to begin with?
I'll tell you who determined it was the head of the Roman Catholic Church.
Right. Or human, for that matter.
Or another, I can tell you that it wasn't God.
Exactly.
It was another human being.
It was another
who did it for some reason to get control over some other human being. That is exactly why it was done. Yeah. It was done because it was one human being, and that's why the whole religious establishment came out in the first place. It was a way to separate people from God, saying you got to go through me in order to get to God, which is in itself absolutely crazy. Because I mean, the most powerful words in Scripture are, "Be still and know that I am God."
Yeah. And that right there is why I'm so passionate and why I coined myself a divinity coach.
Got it.
Because it's about awakening people to their own inner divine authoritative power to create, generate, and manifest their lives in a manner that aligns with their most authentic and grandest vision.
Exactly. And I love that word, authoritative self. And I see we're going to go over, but I don't care. It's my show. I can go over. I'm having a great time conversation with you. So we might go a little longer than we normally do. Because I love how this is, where this is going. And, we can edit what we don't want, but I love it. That voice of authority. Joy of the wise woman, when she is speaking from that voice of authority. Jesus says, "Speak with my authority." And when you're speaking from that divine presence within us, we are speaking. It's not asking for permission. It's not looking for a conflict. It's not looking for a fight. That voice of authority is the voice of truth and wisdom.
Yeah.
And when we speak from that voice, when you speak from it, anybody else in the world speaks from, we know it, we hear it. But it's never trying to convince us of anything or trying to win. It's just trying to make sure that we know how much we're loved.
Yes. Absolutely. And not long ago, I took that word authority and I pondered it a bit, and I was thinking, I was like, so if I am the authority of my own life,
yes,
I broke the word down, then I get to author it in alignment with my why. Author it with my why, authority.
Right.
It's about authorship.
Exactly. It's about ownership. It's about taking responsibility for your life, isn't it?
It's about taking responsibility, ownership, and authorship. That life isn't happening to me; it's happening through me.
Yeah, I think that in itself is the first realization of enlightenment.
Yeah.
When you become aware that the life force of the universe is working with you, it is in concert with you, and you can surrender to it. You can fall back into the loving arms of the universe.
Yeah.
And know the universe has got your back no matter what.
Yes.
Everything changes.
Yes.
It's fun, isn't it?
It's so fun.
It's fun doing what we do, isn't it?
I love it. This doesn't feel like work to me. Like
it never feels like me.
It never feels like work.
And Joy's like, I mean, I get up early because my business partners and they're all in Kenya. And so they're like 7 hours ahead. So my day starts at 6:30 because I very much believe that we should work together in heart space till we get more done. And so we get on the phone and Zoom together at 6:30 in the morning my time and work till 9 o'clock together. And we check in and we might spend an hour just asking how we're doing.
Yeah.
I did that with Abba this morning. I said, well, and we just talked about how much we loved each other, how much we appreciated each other. And just imagine, then our vibrational frequency went up into that higher range of unconditional love. And then when we started working, our superpowers were on. We were creative. We got a week's worth of work done in about 4 hours, in about 2 hours today, because we were in that heart. We were in that higher vibration of creative energy that comes from the heart.
And I you know what I call that energy?
What?
Source.
Yes.
It's source. It's our source energy.
It's our source energy.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this guy, Lucky Church. Hey, Lucky Church, this guy, I've been looking for you. I'm so glad you said hello to me today. I have been looking for you, Lucky Church. Please, 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 let's get together and talk next week. I am so glad you piped in. There's all through the universe. This guy is great. His cousin, I believe, is Frenchie, the woman who won on the music, the singer Frenchie. I think that's her name. Frenchie is her name. She won on one of the major Who's Got Talent or one of those major things. Anyway, he's a super guy, Lucky Church is. And so I haven't seen him since COVID, I don't think. And so it's so funny that he popped in here today and said hello to us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know.
Yes, long overdue, King. Yes, sir. There's a see what I mean about you put it out there and the universe shows up with great. Frenchie is, yes, Broadway. That's who it is. Frenchie,
yeah, Frenchie Davis.
Yes, Broadway and American. Thank you for helping us get this cleaned up. Oh, I've got chills. Like, you just gave me chills, Lucky.
Yeah,
I love this guy.
I love Frenchie Davis. If he's talking about Frenchie Davis, I love her. I absolutely love her.
Yeah, I do too. And he's a super guy. So I'm just so glad he piped in. It just made my day. I just tell you, that's just phenomenal. So, but we can't. I could talk to you for days, and we're gonna schedule another time just to get together and just talk and raise each other's vibration a little bit, because that's fun. You know, I think that would be fun, just to get together and just raise some vibration together, because we have certainly done that. I know I'm vibrating at a higher level from our conversation, and I hope the other people, you are, and other people are watching us as well, because that's the whole point, is it to constantly keep putting out those positive vibrations into the world so we can move the planet toward this higher level of consciousness. And I really believe that we are about to, the world has taken 14 billion years to get here. And people like us were a little bit of a strange phenomenon, but there's a big movement going on, brother. And it's sure fun to be a part of, because we're all just pulling more and more people into the light.
Yeah.
More and more people in life. So Freddie, if people want to get to know you and maybe work with you and find out more about, what's the best and the simplest way for people to get in touch with you?
Yeah, the best way would be to go to my website, which is called wokenwarriors.com. Woken, WOKEN Warriors, WARRIORS.com. And all of my social media is on there. So my Instagram, and I'm on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn link is on there. You can also find me on TikTok. I'm a TikToker now.
Me too. I love TikTok.
It's
so full of positive energy. I am a big lover of TikTok.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love TikTok.
I resisted it for a while, but once I got into it, I was like, okay, I could get with this, because I felt like I didn't want to get on there and feel like I had to, perform and do dances. I wanted to be authentic to who I was. Right. And so when I allowed myself and gave myself permission to put out the kind of content that felt right for me, I was like, okay, I can get with this.
It's exactly what I feel, Freddie. When I was a little hesitant, because I don't want to go and act silly. I don't want to get people's attention. Yeah. I want to be Martin. But this is the thing. First of all, when I was a little boy, I wasn't a normal boy. My favorite thing to do was to turn on Diana Ross and the Supremes and act like I was stopping in the name of love. Yeah. And I certainly could not go on the playground as a little boy. I'd be beaten to a pulp. But the thing I like about TikTok, and I haven't done that yet on TikTok yet, I might one of these days. But the thing I like about TikTok is it's so positive. It's so, the more authentic you are, the more real you are in those short videos. You don't have time to get too crazy. Then the more powerful you are and the more positive vibe that particular channel is putting out in the universe. And I get to go on that playground and be Martin. I get to be that crazy little queer boy that was a little different than everybody else and just be me.
Yeah.
And that's fun, isn't it?
It's so fun.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love that you said that. So they can find you at, give us that website again so we can find it.
Yeah. So it's wokenwarriors.com, my website. You can find me on LinkedIn, Freddy Sanders. I go by, I'm learning to embrace my government name, which is Frederick Sanders. So you can find me, but I put Freddy in parentheses because that's what most of my colleagues call me. But yeah, Instagram, Woken_Warriors is my Instagram. On TikTok, it's just Woken Warriors, all together. That's where you can find me.
Well, I highly recommend you go out and find Freddy Sanders, because I'm so glad I found him. And I'm so glad he came on my show today, because he's, if you can see, he is just a huge breath of love and fresh air and inspiration to the world. And we need more and more Freddy Sanders out there to help inspire and move this world into a higher level of consciousness, into a new earth. And I love this. Here, let's put this out here. There we go. At Woken Warrior. Look at this guy, Lucky Church. Isn't he a sweetheart?
Thank you, Lucky Church.
And he is one sweet man.
Tell Frenchie I said hi.
He's a straight guy. He's a straight black man with a lovely wife, and he's just a sweet guy. And he's a big ally. What did he say here? Martin is I'm a millennial. Oh, I love when people engage with us. It makes it so much fun. Let me just give a little shout out for how people can find me. So well, you can find me. Martin Coward is what I go by a lot. I'm Martin Coward Coaching, or Martin Coward. I've got a podcast called Speaking the Truth About Money with Martin Coward, Enjoy the Wise Woman, which just gets repurposed into. But you can always just find me by looking for Martin Coward on social media. But I got a place for people that want to go. I'm doing a free 1-week workshop to help people understand who they are and what their mission is. That's coming up in the middle of May, and it's free. It's a 5-day workshop, about an hour a day, to help you. It's a hero's journey. It's to help you really find out who you are, like we have. Who is that authentic queer man that's in you? I work largely with gay men. But who is that authentic man? Who is that divine superpower within you? And when you get that, we're going to show you how to develop that mission, how to find that North Star. And then the 3rd day, we're going to teach you how to sustain it, how to move into heart space, how to live in that space. So it's a very transformational free workshop coming up on May 16th. And if you join our Facebook group, Financial Heart Space for Gay, Transgender, and Bisexual Men, you will find us in there. You will find all sorts of free coaching, all sorts of free help. We're there as a support community for LGBTQ entrepreneurs, business leaders, change agents. So we've got the support. I think what we said, we must have the courage to ask for support. And that's exactly what our Facebook group is about. It's about supporting each other in this movement to move the world into this higher level of consciousness. It's so beautiful and so lovely. And Freddie and I both want you to come join us. That's the whole point of this. We want you to come join us in this heart space.
Yes.
So let me see. He's got one more thing to say. Yes. Ooh. The divine feminine is so powerful. It's so powerful. Lucky, I can't wait. I'm coming to the city. I don't get to the city, but I will come to the city, and we're going to have lunch next week. I would love to see you, brother. I'm so glad you typed in here. So that's where you can find me, Financial Heart Space for Gay, Transgender, and Bisexual Men. Look for me over there. And in the meantime, may love and prosperity prevail. Hold on one second, Freddie. I want to just close this out, and we're going to talk a minute backstage.